The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the Lagos penthouse as Adunni Okafor stared at the scene before her. Her husband of 40 years, Emeka, was tangled in silk sheets with her own sister Folklore. Their bodies moved in a rhythm that mocked every anniversary, every prayer, every sacrifice she had made for their marriage. Emeka! The word tore from her throat like a wounded animal's cry. Her husband's dark eyes snapped open, meeting hers across the room. Instead of shame, she saw something worse, relief. As if he'd been waiting for this moment, this confrontation that would finally end their charade. What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. Folklore scrambled to cover herself with the Egyptian cotton sheets Adunni had picked out herself. Sister, please, let me explain. Explain? Adunni's voice rose to match the Lagos traffic honking 40 floors below. Explain how you've been sleeping with my husband in my own bed. Emeka swung his legs over the side of the bed, his 62-year-old frame still commanding despite the circumstances. Adunni, this marriage has been dead for years. You know it, I know it. The words hit her like a physical blow. 40 years. 4 children. Countless nights she'd waited up when his construction business kept him late, or so she believed. The betrayal wasn't just about infidelity in marriage. It was about the complete destruction of everything she'd built her life around. Dead? She laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Is that what you call raising your children? Supporting your business? Standing by you when you had nothing? That was obligation, not love, Emeka said, reaching for his clothes. Folklore understands me in ways you never could. Adunni's sister finally found her voice, wrapping herself in a robe. Adunni, we never meant for you to find out like this. We've been trying to figure out how to tell you. How long? Adunni's question cut through the air like broken glass. The silence stretched between them until Emeka answered. 3 years. 3 years of lies. 3 years of family dinners where Folklore sat at her table, played with her grandchildren, smiled in her face, while planning this domestic betrayal behind her back. Get out, Adunni whispered. This is my house, Emeka began. Get out! The roar that came from her surprised even herself. Both of you, get out before I do something we'll all regret. Folklore gathered her clothes, tears streaming down her face. Sister, please! You are no sister of mine. As they dressed hastily, Adunni's phone rang. Her eldest son Chitty's name flashed on the screen. How could she tell her children that their family was imploding? That their aunt, the woman who had helped raise them, was now the other woman in their parents' marriage? Don't answer that, Emeka said, adjusting his idbata. We need to talk about how we're going to handle this. Handle this? Adunni stared at him in disbelief. You think this is something to handle? You just destroyed 40 years of marriage, and you want to discuss damage control? I want a divorce, Adunni. I've wanted it for years, but I didn't know how to ask. The casual way he said it, as if divorce was as simple as ordering jollof rice at a restaurant, sent fresh waves of rage through her system. In their Yoruba culture, in their Christian faith, marriage was sacred. It was covenant, not convenience. A divorce? She found herself laughing again, that same hollow sound. After 40 years, after I gave you the best years of my life, after I helped build your construction empire from nothing, you want to throw it all away for my sister? It's not about throwing anything away. It's about being happy for once in my life. The cruelty in his words was breathtaking. And I made you unhappy all these years? We made each other unhappy, Adunni. This is better for everyone. As Emeka and Folklore prepared to leave, her phone rang again. This time it was Kemi, her youngest daughter, calling from her flat in Victoria Island. Soon, all 4 of their children would know. Soon, her mother would know. Soon, The entire Lagos social scene would be buzzing with news of this public disgrace. "I'll have my lawyer contact you tomorrow," Emeka said from the doorway. "I suggest you get one too." The door closed behind them with a soft click that seemed to echo through the empty penthouse. Adunni sank onto the sofa where she'd spent countless evenings waiting for her husband to come home. The same sofa where their grandchildren played during Sunday family gatherings. The same sofa where she'd planned anniversary parties and birthday celebrations for a man who had been planning his exit for 3 years. Her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Mrs. Okafor, this is Bola from City People magazine. We'd like to comment on the photos we received showing your husband and sister together. Please call back." Photos. Someone had been watching, documenting their betrayal. The emotional manipulation wasn't just private, it was about to become Lagos's most talked about scandal. As she stared at her reflection in the darkened window, Adunni realized she had a choice. She could crumble under the weight of this betrayal, or she could fight back. But first, she needed to know exactly how deep this conspiracy went, and how many people had been laughing behind her back while she played the devoted wife. Her phone rang one more time. The caller ID showed a name that made her blood run cold. Emeka's father, Chief Adebayo Okafor. The billionaire patriarch of the Okafor family rarely called her directly. If he was reaching out now, it meant the news was already spreading through their wealthy Nigerian social circle like wildfire. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What do you think happens next? Comment below. Mama Chitty. Chief Adebayo's deep voice carried the weight of authority that had built a business empire. "I need to see you immediately." Adunni's hands trembled as she gripped the phone. In 40 years of marriage, her father-in-law had always been formal, respectful, but distant. He'd never called her by her given name, always referring to her by the traditional title of their first grandchild's mother. "Papa, now is not a good time. It's about my foolish son and what he's done to this family. I'm downstairs in your lobby." The line went dead. Chief Adebayo was in the building. The man who owned half of Lagos's commercial real estate was downstairs, wanting to discuss her husband's infidelity. Adunni looked around the penthouse that now felt like a crime scene. She couldn't receive the patriarch of the Okafor family in a room that still smelled of betrayal. 20 minutes later, she sat across from Chief Adebayo in her living room. At 85, he remained an imposing figure, tall, broad-shouldered, with silver hair that gleamed under the crystal chandelier. His traditional white agbada was pristine, as always, but his dark eyes held something she'd never seen before: shame. "I raised my son better than this," he said without preamble. 40 years of marriage, and he throws it away like common trash. "Papa, I don't think we should. You think I don't know what goes on in my family?" His voice boomed. "You think I don't have people watching, protecting our name? I knew about Folklore 3 months ago." The revelation hit Adunni like a physical blow. "You knew? I hoped he would come to his senses. I hoped the foolishness would end before it destroyed what you built together." Chief Adebayo leaned forward, his massive hands clasped in front of him. "I was wrong to wait. Now our family name is about to become tabloid entertainment." Adunni thought about the reporter's text message, about the photos someone had taken. How bad is it going to be? Bad enough that your children will hear about it before you can tell them yourself. Bad enough that your mother will be humiliated in her church. Bad enough that every business associate, every society wife, every person who ever envied your marriage will have something to talk about. The weight of the public disgrace settled on her shoulders like a heavy blanket. In Lagos's tight social circles, reputation was everything. The Okafor name opened doors, secured business deals, and commanded respect. But scandal could destroy decades of careful reputation building overnight. "What do you want from me, Papa?" Chief Adebayo studied her for a long moment. I want to know if you're going to fight for what's yours, or if you're going to let my son and your sister steal 40 years of your life without consequences. I don't understand. Emeka thinks he can divorce you quietly, give you some money, and move on with his new life. He thinks because he's my son, because he runs the construction company, because he's a man in a man's world, he holds all the power. The old man's eyes glittered dangerously. He's forgotten who really built the Okafor Empire. Adunni had always known that Chief Adebayo was the true source of the family's wealth, but she'd never heard him speak so openly about the power dynamics within his own family. Your husband wants to take half of everything in the divorce, Chief Adebayo continued. The houses, the investments, even the children's trust funds. He wants to punish you for not being the wife he thought he deserved. Half of everything? Adunni's voice was barely a whisper. But I helped build. You built more than he realizes. More than anyone realizes. Chief Adebayo reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. These are documents showing every investment decision, every property purchase, every business deal made in the last 40 years. Your signature is on 90% of them. Adunni stared at the folder as if it contained dynamite. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm saying that legally, you own more of the Okafor wealth than my son does. I'm saying that if you want revenge, if you want to show him and your sister what happens when they betray the wrong woman, you have options. The doorbell rang, followed by frantic knocking. Through the security monitor, Adunni could see her eldest son Chitty and her daughter Kimmy standing in the hallway, their faces twisted with concern and confusion. The children, she whispered. Chief Adebayo nodded grimly. They've seen the photos. Social media works faster than family communication these days. As Adunni walked toward the door, her father-in-law's voice stopped her. Think carefully about what you want, Mama Chitty. Do you want justice or do you want mercy? Because after tonight, you won't be able to choose both. She opened the door to find her children's tear-stained faces. Behind them stood her son-in-law Son, holding his phone with a news article displayed on the screen. The headline made her legs nearly give out. Construction magnate Emeka Okafor caught in affair with wife's sister. Exclusive photos inside. Mama, Chitty's voice cracked with emotion. Tell me this isn't true. Tell me Papa didn't do this to you, to our family. As her children rushed into the penthouse, Adunni caught Chief Adebayo's eye over their heads. The old man nodded once, then gathered his papers and stood to leave. Think about what we discussed, he said quietly. But don't think too long. Emeka's lawyer will be here tomorrow morning, and he's not coming to be gentle. When the door closed behind him, Adunni was left facing the hardest conversation of her life. How do you tell your grown children that everything they believed about their family was built on lies? How do you explain that their beloved aunt had been destroying their mother's marriage for 3 years? But as she looked at the folder Chief Adebayo had left behind, she realized there might be a way to turn this betrayal into something else entirely. Something her cheating spouse and manipulative sister would never see coming. Her phone buzzed with another text from the reporter. Mrs. Okafor, we go to print in 6 hours. This is your last chance to comment before we publish everything. Everything. The word echoed in her mind as her children waited for answers she wasn't sure she was ready to give. Don't forget to like and subscribe. What do you think Adunni should do? Fight back or try to forgive? Let us know in the comments. Mama, is it true? Kimmy's voice shattered the silence in the penthouse living room. Adunni looked at her 4 children, Chitty, 38 and serious like his father, Kimmy, 32 and fierce like her mother, the twins Deo and Bayo, 28, and still believing their parents had the perfect marriage. How could she destroy their world with a simple, yes? Sit down, all of you. Son, Kimmy's husband, held up his phone. Mama, the photos, they're everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp groups. People are saying, I don't care what people are saying. Adunni cut him off, though her heart hammered against her ribs. I care what my children are thinking. Chitty, ever the eldest, stepped forward. We're thinking our father has lost his mind. We're thinking Aunt Folklore has betrayed everything our family stands for. And we're thinking you don't deserve this humiliation after everything you've sacrificed for us. The loyalty in his voice nearly broke her resolve to stay strong. These were good children, successful, married, raising families of their own. They didn't deserve to be collateral damage in their parents' war. Your father wants a divorce, she said simply. Bayo, usually the joker of the family, slammed his hand on the coffee table. After 40 years? After everything you've done for him? He says he hasn't been happy. Happy? Kimmy's voice rose to match her mother's earlier fury. What about your happiness? What about the nights you waited up for him? The business meetings you attended? The clients you entertained? The children you raised while he built his empire? Deo, quieter than his twin, asked the question that made Adunni's blood run cold. How long has this been going on? 3 years. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. 3 years meant their last family Christmas was a lie. 3 years meant every Sunday dinner where Folklore played with their children was orchestrated emotional manipulation. 3 years meant every anniversary celebration was a mockery. Chitty pulled out his phone. I'm calling Papa. This is insane. No. Adunni's voice carried an authority that surprised even her. You're not calling anyone until we decide how this family is going to respond. Respond? Kemi looked confused. What do you mean respond? Adunni thought about Chief Adebayo's folder, about the legal documents that might change everything. I mean, we have choices. We can let your father and Folklore destroy 40 years of our family's reputation, or we can fight back. Fight back how? Son asked. As a lawyer himself, he understood the implications of what she was suggesting. Your grandfather left some interesting information about our family's finances. It seems your father doesn't own as much as he thinks he does. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Chitty, who worked in the family business, knew better than anyone how intertwined their parents' lives had become over 4 decades. Mama, he said slowly, are you talking about going to war with Papa? Before she could answer, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Emika's number. She let it ring once, twice, then answered on speaker. Adunni, we need to talk. Talk? Her voice was ice. I thought we finished talking when you and my sister left my bedroom. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I've spoken to my lawyer. We can make this clean, simple. You keep the penthouse. I'll make sure you're comfortable. Comfortable? Kimmy snatched the phone. Papa, this is Kimmy. Are you out of your mind? Baby girl, this is between your mother and me. No, it's not. You made it about all of us when you decided to destroy our family. You made it about all of us when you chose to humiliate Mama publicly. Emika's sigh carried through the speaker. I know you're upset, but you'll understand when you're older. Sometimes marriages just end. After 40 years? Chitty took the phone from his sister. Papa, we're not children. We know what marriage looks like. We know what commitment means. And we know what betrayal looks like too. Son, I tried to make it work with your mother. But some things can't be fixed. Did you try counseling? Deo asked. Did you try talking to her instead of sneaking around with her sister? The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. I want to see my grandchildren, Emika finally said. Then you should have thought about that before you destroyed their grandmother's life. Kimmy shot back. Kimmy, I'm still your father. And she's still your wife. The words exploded from her. Or did you forget that part when you were rolling around with Aunt Folklore? Adunni took the phone back. Emika, if you want to talk, You can talk to my lawyer. If you want to see your grandchildren, you can explain to them why their family is falling apart because of your selfishness. Adunni, don't turn my children against me. I don't have to turn them against you. You did that yourself. She hung up and immediately called Chief Adebayo. Papa, it's Adunni. I've made my decision. I want to see everything, every document, every asset, every piece of leverage we have. If Emeka wants a war, he'll get one. Her children watched as their mother transformed before their eyes. The heartbroken woman from an hour ago was becoming someone they'd never seen before, someone who wouldn't just survive this betrayal, but would make sure it cost the people who'd orchestrated it. What do you need from us, Mama? Chitty asked. I need you to be prepared for this to get ugly. Your father won't go down without a fight, and neither will Folek. But I need you to remember that sometimes, when people show you who they really are, you have to believe them. As if summoned by their conversation, Adunni's phone buzzed with a text from Folek. Sister, please call me. I can explain everything. This isn't what you think. Adunni showed the message to her children. Kimmy read it aloud, her voice dripping with disgust. She still wants to call you sister after sleeping with Papa for 3 years? What should I text back? Adunni asked. Bayo, the quiet one, surprised them all by answering. Tell her the only sister she has now is the one in the mirror, because she killed every other relationship she had when she decided to betray you. As Adunni typed the message, she realized her son was right. This wasn't just about a cheating spouse. This was about rebuilding her entire identity after everyone she trusted had revealed their true nature. But first, she had to read Chief Adebayo's documents and figure out exactly how much power she really had. Comment your thoughts on the betrayal. Should Adunni forgive or fight back? Share this with someone who loves drama. The law office of Bemisola and Associates sat on the 20th floor of a glass tower in Victoria Island, offering a panoramic view of Lagos Harbor. Adunni had never imagined she'd need a divorce lawyer, but here she was at 7 in the morning, watching her marriage dissolve into legal strategy. Bemisola Adeyemi was everything Adunni needed, sharp, ruthless, and unimpressed by the Okafor family name. At 50, she'd built her reputation destroying unfaithful husbands in court, and her fees reflected her success rate. Mrs. Okafor, Bemisola said, spreading Chief Adebayo's documents across her mahogany desk. Your father-in-law has given you a weapon of mass destruction. Adunni leaned forward, studying the papers that could change everything. What exactly am I looking at? Proof that you legally own 65% of everything your husband thinks is his. The construction company, the real estate portfolio, the investment accounts. Your signature is on every major acquisition over the past 40 years. The revelation was staggering. But how is that possible? Emeka always handled the business side of things. Because your father-in-law is smarter than his son realizes. Every time the company needed capital, every time they bought property, every time they made investments, he insisted both spouses sign the documents. Traditional values, he called it. Protection for the family unit. Adunni's phone buzzed with another call from Emeka. She'd ignored 17 calls since yesterday. Each time his name appeared on her screen, her anger grew stronger. Mrs. Okafor, I need to ask you something important, Bemisola continued. Do you want a quick settlement, or do you want to destroy him? I want justice. Justice and destruction often look the same in divorce court. Are you prepared for the consequences? Before Adunni could answer, her phone rang again. This time it was Chitty. Mama, you need to see the news. They're saying Papa is planning to marry Aunt Folek as soon as the divorce is final. The words hit her like ice water. What? It's on Linda Ikeji's blog. Anonymous sources saying they've been planning this for months. There's even speculation about a traditional wedding ceremony. Adunni looked at Bemisola, who was already pulling up the blog post on her tablet. The headline made her stomach turn. Emeka Okafor's secret wedding plans. Construction mogul T.O. marry wife's sister after 40-year marriage ends. This changes everything, Bemisola said grimly. He's not just leaving you, he's replacing you with your own sister. In Yoruba culture, that's not just betrayal, it's desecration. Aduni's hand shook as she read the details. According to the anonymous source, Emeka and Folake had been planning their future together for over a year. They'd already looked at houses, discussed having children despite being in their 60s, and had even chosen traditional wedding attire. He played me, Aduni whispered. All those years of pretending to work late, all those business trips, he was planning a whole new life. Mrs. Okafor, I need you to listen carefully. With these documents and this level of premeditation on his part, we can do more than just win a divorce settlement. We can restructure the entire Okafor empire. What do you mean? I mean we can force him out of his own company. We can claim the majority stake in their properties. We can make sure he and your sister understand exactly what happens when someone tries to steal 40 years of another woman's life. Aduni's phone rang again. This time it was her mother, Mama Aduk, calling from Ibadan. Aduni, what is this nonsense I'm reading online? People are saying Emeka is planning to marry Folake? The pain in her mother's voice cut deep. At 78, Mama Aduk had always been proud of her daughter's successful marriage. She'd bragged to her friends about Aduni's life in Lagos, about her son-in-law's business success, about the grandchildren who visited every Christmas. Mama, it's true. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. That girl. Mama Aduk's voice turned fierce. I raised Folake like my own daughter after her parents died. I paid her school fees. I brought her to Lagos to live with you. And this is how she repays us? Aduni could hear her mother crying, and it broke something inside her. This betrayal wasn't just destroying her marriage. It was humiliating everyone who had ever believed in her family. Mama, I'm going to fix this. How, my daughter? How do you fix 40 years of lies? Bemisola slid a document across the desk. By making sure they pay for every lie they told. The paper was a legal petition that would freeze all Okafor assets pending the outcome of the divorce proceedings. If Aduni signed it, Emeka would wake up tomorrow to find his accounts locked, his properties tied up in legal proceedings, and his business operations grinding to a halt. This is war, Bemisola said simply. Once you sign this, there's no going back. He'll fight dirty. Your sister will probably try to manipulate your children, and the media attention will be intense. But you'll win. Aduni thought about the blog post, about Emeka planning a traditional wedding with Folake while still married to her. She thought about her mother's tears, her children's anger, and the 40 years of her life that had been built on a foundation of lies. What happens if I don't sign it? He takes half of everything, marries your sister in 6 months, and you spend the rest of your life wondering what would have happened if you'd fought back. As Aduni reached for the pen, her phone buzzed with a text message from Folake. Sister, I'm pregnant. Please don't destroy our family over this. The pen clattered to the desk as Aduni stared at the screen. Pregnant. At 58 years old, her sister was claiming to be pregnant with her husband's child. Bemisola read the message over her shoulder. Mrs. Okafor, that changes everything. If there's a child involved, there's no child, Aduni said firmly, signing the document with swift strokes. There's just more lies from people who've been lying for 3 years. But as she walked out of the law office 30 minutes later, she couldn't shake the feeling that Folake's pregnancy claim was about to complicate everything in ways she couldn't predict. Her phone rang one final time as she reached her car. The caller ID showed Chief Adebayo's number. Mama Chitty, I hope you made the right decision today. I did what you suggested, Papa. I chose justice over mercy. Good. Because Emeka just called me, threatening to cut ties with the family business if I don't convince you to settle quietly. He seems to think I'll choose him over you. And will you?" Chief Adebayo's laugh was cold as Lego's harmattan wind. "My dear, he's about to learn which of you I actually consider family." Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Do you think Folklore is really pregnant, or is this another manipulation? Comment below. The Okafor construction headquarters buzzed with confusion as employees arrived to find their boss's accounts frozen and security guards at every entrance. Adunni watched from her car across the street as Emeka's BMW pulled up to the building he considered his kingdom for 20 years. She almost felt sorry for him as he stormed toward the entrance, only to be stopped by security. Almost. Her phone rang immediately. Emeka's voice was pure fury when she answered. "What did you do, Adunni?" "I protected what's mine. Those are my companies, my buildings, my life's work. Actually, according to my lawyer and the documents I signed 40 years ago, they're our companies. And since you decided to plan a whole new life without consulting me, I decided to make some unilateral decisions of my own." The silence on the other end was deafening. "You can't do this," he finally said. She hung up and rolled down her window. "Papa, you look like a man with news. Bad news for my son, good news for you. Get in my car. We need to talk where there are no listening ears." 20 minutes later, they sat in Chief Adebayo's study in his Banana Island mansion. The walls were lined with photographs documenting his rise from a small-town trader to one of Nigeria's wealthiest men. In every recent photo, Adunni stood beside him at various business functions and family gatherings, while Emeka was often absent, pursuing deals or, as she now knew, his affair. "Folklore came to see me this morning," Chief Adebayo said without preamble. Adunni's stomach clenched. "About the pregnancy? About money. She wanted me to know that she's carrying my grandchild and hoped I would be understanding about the situation. Is she really pregnant?" Chief Adebayo pulled out a manila envelope. "I had my doctor friend run a private test. The pregnancy is real, but the timing is interesting." Adunni's world tilted. Despite everything, she'd hoped the pregnancy was just another lie. Who got his wife's sister pregnant while planning to abandon his marriage? That man is not the son I raised. Before Adunni could respond, her phone exploded with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, WhatsApp alerts. Something big was happening. The first message was from Kimmy. "Mama, turn on Channels TV right now. They're doing a story about Papa and the business." Adunni grabbed the remote and switched to the news channel. The anchor was discussing the shocking turn of events in one of Lagos's most prominent families, while photos of Emeka being turned away from his own building played on screen. Sources close to the family confirm that Mrs. Adunni Okafor has taken legal action to secure her rightful share of the construction empire, leaving her husband of 40 years locked out of his own business. This dramatic development comes just days after photos surfaced showing Mr. Emeka Okafor in a compromising position with his wife's sister. The phone rang. It was Chitty. "Mama, Papa is outside our office, screaming at security. He's demanding that I use my access codes to get him into the building." "Don't do it," Adunni said firmly. "He made his choice when he decided to humiliate our family. He can live with the consequences. But Mama, he's our father. People are recording him with their phones. It's going to be all over social media." The irony wasn't lost on her. Emeka, who had orchestrated her public humiliation, was now experiencing his own. The difference was that her humiliation had been undeserved, while his was entirely self-inflicted. Then maybe he should have thought about that before he decided to destroy our family for the sake of an affair. Another call was coming through. This time it was Folklore. "Sister, please, you have to stop this madness. I'm pregnant. I'm stressed, and all this fighting isn't good for the baby." The audacity was staggering. "You're calling me sister while carrying my husband's child? It wasn't supposed to happen this way. We never meant to hurt you. You slept with my husband for 3 years and got pregnant with his child, but you never meant to hurt me." Adunni's voice could have frozen the Lagos lagoon. "What exactly did you think would happen? We hoped you would understand eventually. That you would see we were meant to be together." Chief Adebayo was watching the news coverage with growing concern. On screen, protesters had gathered outside the Okafor construction building, some supporting Adunni's fight for justice, others claiming she was destroying jobs and livelihoods. "Folake, let me make something very clear," Adunni said, her voice deadly calm. "You are no longer my sister. The child you're carrying is my husband's responsibility, not mine. And if you think a pregnancy is going to make me back down from claiming what I've worked 40 years to build, you've severely underestimated who you're dealing with." She hung up and looked at Chief Adebayo. "What happens now?" "Now we wait to see how desperate my son becomes. Desperate men make stupid choices, and stupid choices give us more ammunition." As if summoned by his words, both their phones rang simultaneously. The caller ID showed Emeka's number. "Don't answer," Chief Adebayo said. "Let him leave a message. Whatever he says might be useful in court." The voicemail notification popped up a minute later. Adunni played it on speaker. "Adunni, this is insane. You're destroying everything we built together. I know you're angry, but think about our children, our grandchildren. Think about the employees who are going to lose their jobs because of your vindictiveness. I made a mistake, yes, but this punishment doesn't fit the crime. Call me back so we can work this out like adults." Chief Adebayo's laugh was mirthless. "He calls getting another woman pregnant a mistake. He calls 3 years of deception and planning to leave you a mistake. And now he wants to negotiate like an adult." Adunni's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Okafor. This is Bola from City People magazine. We understand that Chief Adebayo has cut his son out of his will. Can you confirm this story?" The media frenzy was escalating beyond anything she'd imagined. "Papa, they know about the will already. How is that possible?" Chief Adebayo's face darkened. "Someone in my lawyer's office is talking to reporters. That means Emeka will know about his inheritance being cut within the hour." As if on cue, Adunni's phone exploded with an incoming call from Emeka. This time, she answered. "You poisoned my father against me." His voice was raw with rage and something else, desperation. "I didn't have to poison anyone. Your actions spoke loud enough. 40 years, Adunni. 40 years I provided for you, gave you everything you wanted, and this is how you repay me. 40 years I supported your dreams, raised your children, and built your business empire. And you repaid me by planning to replace me with my own sister. This isn't over. You want to play hardball? Fine. But remember, I know things about you too. Things that might interest the media." The threat hung in the air like smoke from a burning building. "What things?" Adunni asked, though ice was forming in her stomach. "Ask your precious father-in-law about the loan you took out 5 years ago. Ask him about where that money really went." The line went dead, leaving Adunni staring at Chief Adebayo's suddenly pale face. "Papa, what loan is he talking about?" Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. What secret is Emeka threatening to expose? Comment your predictions below. Chief Adebayo's study felt smaller as silence stretched between them. Outside, Lagos traffic honked and bustled, oblivious to the bomb that had just exploded in the Okafor family's carefully constructed world. "Papa," Adunni said quietly, "what loan?" The patriarch of the Okafor Empire suddenly looked every one of his 85 years. His hands, usually steady and commanding, trembled slightly as he reached for his brandy. 5 years ago, you came to me desperate for money. 5 million naira. You said it was for Kemi's wedding expenses. Aduni's blood turned to ice. She remembered the conversation, remembered the shame of asking for money, remembered Chief Adebayo's immediate agreement to help. But that wasn't what the money was for, was it? He continued. The room tilted. Papa, I can explain. You used it to pay off gambling debts. Your sister's gambling debts. The words hit her like physical blows. How do you know? Because I've known about Folek's addiction for years. I've been watching, waiting to see how far it would go, how much damage she would cause before someone stopped her. Aduni sank into her chair as memories crashed over her. 5 years ago, Folek had come to her crying, terrified, claiming she owed dangerous people money. She'd begged Aduni not to tell anyone, especially not Emeka, who had always disapproved of Folek's lifestyle. She said they would hurt her if she didn't pay, Aduni whispered. And you believed her. You took money meant for your daughter's wedding and used it to enable your sister's destructive behavior. I was protecting her. You were enabling her. And now Emeka knows, which means he has leverage. Aduni's phone rang. It was Bimisola, her lawyer. Mrs. Okafor, we have a problem. Your husband's legal team just filed a counter-petition claiming you committed financial fraud 5 years ago. They're alleging you misappropriated family funds. The world was spinning too fast. Can they prove it? If they have documentation of the loan and proof of where the money actually went, yes. It won't invalidate your claim to the marital assets, but it could reduce your settlement significantly. After hanging up, Aduni stared at Chief Adebayo. Why didn't you ever tell me you knew? Because I hoped you would come to me when you were ready to tell the truth. I hoped you would trust me enough to ask for help instead of enabling Folek's self-destruction. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Emeka. Call off your lawyers, or I expose everything. Your choice. He's bluffing, Chief Adebayo said, reading over her shoulder. Is he? Because if this comes out, it destroys my credibility. It makes me look like a hypocrite who's been hiding financial secrets while accusing him of betrayal. There's a difference between protecting someone you love and betraying someone who loves you. Another text from Emeka. 1 hour, Aduni. Then I hold a press conference and tell Lagos exactly what kind of woman you really are. Aduni's children began calling simultaneously. First Chidi, then Kemi, then the twins. Each call brought the same message. Their father had contacted them, claiming he had proof their mother wasn't the innocent victim she appeared to be. Mama, Kemi's voice was tight with worry. Papa says you've been hiding something from us. He says you're not as honest as you pretend to be. What exactly did he tell you? He wouldn't say. Just that if you don't stop this legal war, he's going to reveal something that will shock everyone who thinks they know you. The manipulation was masterful. Emeka couldn't attack her directly without looking worse, but he could plant seeds of doubt in their children's minds, make them question everything they believed about their parents' marriage. Chief Adebayo was watching the news again. A reporter stood outside the Okafor construction building, interviewing employees who were demanding answers about their jobs. This is getting out of hand, he said. The longer this drags on, the more damage it does to everyone, including innocent people who work for the company. So what do you suggest? That I let him win because he's threatening to expose my mistakes? I suggest we get ahead of the story before he controls the narrative. Aduni's phone rang. It was her mother. Aduni, what is this nonsense about you taking money that wasn't yours? Her heart sank. Mama, who told you that? Folek called me crying, saying Emeka is going to destroy your reputation unless you stop fighting him. She says you borrowed money years ago and never paid it back. The betrayal cut deep. Even now, even while carrying Emeka's child, Folek was working to manipulate their family members. Mama, it's complicated. Is it true? The question hung between them like a sword. Adunni had spent her entire life being the reliable daughter, the good wife, the perfect mother. How could she explain that she'd compromised those values to protect the very sister who was now destroying her marriage? It's true that I borrowed money from Papa Adebayo. It's true that I used it for something other than what I said. But it's not true that I stole anything or that I was trying to deceive anyone. Then what was the money for? Chief Adebayo nodded, encouraging her to tell the truth. It was to help Folklore pay gambling debts. She said people were threatening her, and I was scared they would hurt her. The silence from her mother was deafening. You mean to tell me, Mama Aduk finally said, that you've been protecting the girl for years while she was planning to steal your husband? I didn't know about the affair then, Mama. But you knew she was lying to you, using you, manipulating you. And you still protected her. Another call was coming through. This time it was a number she didn't recognize. Mrs. Okafor, this is Tun Bakar from Punch Newspapers. We understand your husband is planning to hold a press conference this afternoon. Would you like to comment before he makes his statement? The media circus was about to become a three-ring nightmare. No comment, she said, hanging up. Chief Adebayo stood up, his decision made. We're calling our own press conference. Today. Before Emeka can control the story. Papa, I don't think. Adunni, listen to me. Your husband is betting that shame will make you back down. He's betting that you'll choose to protect your reputation over fighting for justice. But shame only has power if you let it. Her phone buzzed with one final text from Emeka. Press conference in 30 minutes. Last chance to call this off. As Adunni looked at the message, she realized she was facing the same choice she'd faced 5 years ago when Folklore came begging for help. She could protect herself and let others pay the price, or she could fight for what was right regardless of the personal cost. The difference was that this time, she understood exactly who she was protecting herself from. Share this with someone who loves drama. What do you think Adunni should do? Face the truth publicly or let Emeka win? Let us know in the comments. The conference room at the Eco Hotel buzzed with reporters, cameras, and the electricity of scandal about to unfold. Adunni sat between Chief Adebayo and her lawyer, watching journalists file in like vultures sensing fresh meat. 30 minutes earlier, Emeka had held his press conference outside the frozen Okafor construction building. The footage was already playing on every news station in Lagos, showing him in a perfectly pressed agbada, flanked by his legal team, painting himself as the victim of a vindictive wife's revenge. Ladies and gentlemen, Emeka had said to the cameras, my wife has chosen to wage a war of destruction against our family's business empire. But what she hasn't told you is that she has her own history of financial deception. 5 years ago, she took 5 million naira under false pretenses and used it for purposes she's hidden from our children and the public. The implication was clear. If Adunni could lie about money, what else was she lying about? Now it was her turn to respond, and every major news outlet in Nigeria was represented in the hotel conference room. The story had grown beyond a simple divorce. It was becoming a symbol of power, betrayal, and the changing dynamics of marriage in modern Africa. Mrs. Okafor, the moderator began, how do you respond to your husband's allegations that you misappropriated family funds? Adunni looked directly into the cameras, thinking of her children watching at home, of her mother in Ibadan, of every woman who'd ever been betrayed by someone they trusted. It's true that I borrowed 5 million naira from my father-in-law 5 years ago under pretenses that weren't entirely accurate, she said, her voice steady. But I didn't steal anything, and I didn't use the money for myself. What did you use it for? Another reporter called out. I used it to pay off gambling debts for my sister Folklore, the same sister who is now pregnant with my husband's child after a 3-year affair. The room erupted. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and phones buzzed with breaking news alerts. Dunny had just connected all the pieces of the scandal in one devastating statement. "So you're saying you covered for the same woman who betrayed your marriage?" a reporter from Channels TV asked. "I'm saying I made a mistake 5 years ago by enabling someone's destructive behavior instead of getting them help. But there's a difference between protecting someone you love from their mistakes and betraying someone who loves you with deliberate deception." "Mrs. Okafor," a woman from This Day newspaper called out, "do you regret helping your sister?" Chief Adebayo leaned toward the microphone. "If I may interrupt, I think the more important question is whether her husband regrets destroying a 40-year marriage for the sake of an affair with the same woman my daughter-in-law was trying to protect." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The story wasn't just about infidelity or financial impropriety. It was about a woman whose kindness had been weaponized against her by the very people she tried to help. "Chief Okafor," a reporter called out, "what is your position on your son's behavior?" The old man's voice was granite. "My son chose to betray the woman who helped build our family empire. He chose to humiliate her publicly while planning a secret life with her sister. And now he wants to claim moral superiority because she once made the mistake of loving Folklore too much. That is not the son I raised." Dunny's phone buzzed with a text from Kimmy. "Mama, we're watching. We're proud of you for telling the truth." Another text from Chitty. "Papa is calling us, but none of us are answering. We're with you, Mama." "Mrs. Okafor," another reporter asked, "what do you want from this divorce?" "I want what I've earned in 40 years of marriage. I want the business empire I helped build, the properties I signed for, and the security I sacrificed my youth to create. But more than that, I want other women to know that being betrayed doesn't mean you have to accept being destroyed." As the press conference ended, Dunny felt something she hadn't experienced in years, the power that came from owning her truth, mistakes and all. But her phone was already ringing with the consequences. It was Folklore, and her voice was pure venom when Dunny answered. "How dare you expose my personal business to the entire country? Your gambling addiction became my business the moment you made me complicit in it. Just like your affair became my business when you decided to destroy my marriage. You have no idea what you've done. You think you're so righteous, but you've just made enemies of people you can't afford to cross." The threat in Folklore's voice was unmistakable. "What are you talking about? The people I owed money to 5 years ago? They're still around, and they don't like their business being discussed on national television. You just painted a target on both our backs." The line went dead, leaving Dunny staring at Chief Adebayo in growing horror. "Papa, what kind of people was Folklore involved with?" Chief Adebayo's face had gone pale. "The kind who don't forget debts, even paid ones. The kind who see public exposure as disrespect." Before he could elaborate, security rushed into the conference room. The head of hotel security, a stern-faced man named Mr. Okonkwo, approached their table. "Mrs. Okafor, we've received a credible threat against you. We need to move you to a secure location immediately." "What kind of threat?" "The kind that suggests someone doesn't appreciate their business being discussed on live television." As security escorted them through the hotel's back exit, Dunny realized that her decision to tell the truth publicly might have protected her reputation, but it had also exposed her to dangers she'd never considered. Her phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. "You made a mistake talking about things that aren't your business. Some debts are never really paid." Chief Adebayo read the message over her shoulder, his face grim. "We need to get you somewhere safe while we figure out how serious this threat is." "Papa, what have I done?" "You fought for justice. But justice comes with a price, and we're about to find out exactly how high that price might be." As their security convoy pulled away from the hotel, Dunny caught a glimpse of a black SUV following them in the side mirror. The driver was wearing dark sunglasses despite the cloudy Lagos afternoon, and something about his posture made her blood run cold. The fight for her marriage had just become a fight for her life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Do you think Adunni should have kept quiet about Folklare's gambling debts? What do you think happens next? Comment below. The safe house in Ikoi was a fortress disguised as a family home. High walls topped with razor wire, security cameras at every angle, and armed guards who checked identification before allowing anyone through the gates. Chief Adebayo had connections that extended far beyond legitimate business, and tonight Adunni was grateful for every single one of them. "Mama, are you okay?" Chidi's voice crackled through the secure phone line. "The news is saying you received death threats." "I'm fine, son. Your grandfather is making sure I'm protected." "This is insane. Papa's affair was bad enough, but now people are threatening to hurt you because you told the truth?" Adunni looked through the reinforced windows at the Lagos skyline. Somewhere out there, Emeka was probably celebrating what he saw as her final mistake. Somewhere else, dangerous people were deciding whether her public revelation required a response. "Mrs. Okafor," said Agent Okafor, no relation, despite the name, the head of her security detail. "We've intercepted communications suggesting the threat is real. The people your sister owed money to don't appreciate their business model being exposed on national television. But the debt was paid 5 years ago." "Debt, yes. Disrespect, no. In their world, talking about their business publicly is considered an insult that requires response." Chief Adebayo entered the room with a phone pressed to his ear, his conversation intense and whispered. When he hung up, his face was grave. "The threat is from a group that operates between Lagos and Benin City. They're involved in various enterprises that prefer privacy. Your sister's gambling addiction brought her into contact with people who don't forgive public exposure." "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that I've had to call in favors from people I haven't spoken to in 20 years. Before Adunni could ask what that meant, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Emeka's number. "Adunni, what have you done?" His voice was panicked, a far cry from the confident man who'd held a press conference just hours earlier. "I told the truth." "The truth? You've gotten yourself mixed up with criminals. People are calling me, asking about you, about Folklore, about debts that were supposed to be forgotten." The irony would have been funny if it weren't so dangerous. "Are you actually concerned about my safety, or are you worried about how this affects you?" "Both. These people don't distinguish between family members. If they come after you, they might come after our children too." The possibility hit her like ice water. "Are the children safe?" "I've moved them to secure locations, but this is bigger than our divorce now. You need to fix this." "Fix what?" "I didn't create this situation, Emeka. Your affair with Folklore created it. Her gambling addiction created it. I just refuse to keep covering for everyone else's mistakes. You should have kept quiet. Like I kept quiet about her debts for 5 years? Like I kept quiet about your late nights and business trips? When exactly was staying quiet going to protect our family?" Agent Okafor approached with an update. "Mrs. Okafor, we've located your sister. She's been taken into protective custody." "By whom?" "People who want to have a conversation with her about why their private business was discussed on television." The euphemism was chilling. Chief Adebayo took the phone from his daughter-in-law and spoke to his son directly. "Emeka, your wife is under threat because she tried to protect your mistress from her own poor choices. Instead of blaming her, perhaps you should be asking how we fix this situation." "How do we fix it?" "We find out what these people want, and we give it to them." Within an hour, the answer came through intermediaries. The people who felt disrespected by Adunni's public revelation wanted 2 things: a public apology for discussing their business, and compensation for the negative attention her statements had brought to their operations. "How much compensation?" Chief Adebayo asked the messenger, a nervous man in an expensive suit who'd arrived under heavy security escort. 50 million naira. And the apology needs to be specific. She discusses details of financial arrangements that weren't her business to share. 50 million to apologize for telling the truth? 50 million to stay alive, sir. These people take their privacy very seriously. After the messenger left, Chief Adebayo and Adunni sat in the secure room, processing the ultimatum. "Papa, I don't have 50 million naira in liquid assets." "I do. I can't let you pay for my mistakes. Your mistake was trusting the wrong people. Their mistake was underestimating what happens when someone threatens my family." Folklake's voice was breathless, frightened, but also calculating. "Sister, I know you hate me, but I need your help one more time." "Where are you?" "Somewhere safe, but not for long. Listen carefully. The people threatening you aren't just angry about the gambling debts. They're angry because your press conference exposed a money laundering operation they were running through high-stakes gambling." Adunni's blood chilled. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the gambling wasn't just addiction. I was being used to clean money for these people, and your revelation about the debts made authorities start asking questions about their entire operation. So you involved me in money laundering without my knowledge? I didn't know. I thought it was just gambling, but apparently they were using my losses and payments to move dirty money through legitimate accounts." The scope of the betrayal was breathtaking. Not only had Folklore destroyed her marriage, but she'd also unknowingly made Adunni complicit in criminal enterprise. "What do they want now?" "They want you to take the blame for exposing their operation. They want you to publicly claim you were involved in money laundering and that your press conference was an attempt to negotiate with law enforcement." "Absolutely not. Sister, they have photos of you at the bank when you deposited the money I gave you to pay them. They have records of the transactions. They can make it look like you were the one laundering money, not me." Chief Adebayo was listening on speaker, his face growing darker with each revelation. "Folklore," he said, his voice deadly calm, "are you suggesting that Adunni should confess to crimes she didn't commit to protect you from the consequences of your choices? I'm suggesting she should consider what happens to our family if this gets worse." "Our family?" Adunni's voice rose. "You destroyed our family when you started sleeping with my husband, and you'll destroy what's left of it if you don't fix this situation." The line went dead, leaving Adunni staring at Chief Adebayo in horror. She thought the worst betrayal was her husband's affair, but that was nothing compared to this. Folklore hadn't just stolen her marriage, she'd potentially destroyed her freedom. Agent Okafor returned with final devastating news. "Mrs. Okafor, we've just learned that warrants are being prepared for your arrest on money laundering charges. Someone has provided evidence suggesting you were complicit in illegal financial activities. How long do I have?" "Maybe 12 hours before they come for you." As Adunni looked around the safe house that was about to become a prison, she realized she had one night to decide whether to fight charges she didn't deserve or confess to crimes she didn't commit. Either choice might destroy her life, but only one would save her family. Dawn broke over Lagos with police sirens wailing in the distance, but they weren't coming for Adunni yet. She'd spent the night making phone calls that would either save her life or seal her fate forever. The first call had been to her children, explaining the impossible choice she faced. The second had been to her lawyer, who confirmed that the evidence against her was circumstantial but damaging. The third call had been to someone she'd never expected to need, her husband Emeka. "You want me to do what?" Emeka's voice through the secure phone line was incredulous. "I want you to testify that you knew about Folklare's gambling debts, that you approved of me helping her, and that neither of us knew about any money laundering. But that makes me look complicit too." You are complicit. You've been sleeping with a woman who is unknowingly laundering money for criminals. Your affair put our entire family at risk." The silence stretched between them until Emika finally spoke. "What do I get in return?" Even now, even with their family facing potential criminal charges, her husband was trying to negotiate. "You get to sleep at night knowing you didn't let the mother of your children go to prison for crimes she didn't commit. That's not enough." Chief Adebayo grabbed the phone from Adunni. "Son, let me make this simple for you. You will testify on behalf of your wife, or you will be completely cut off from this family and its resources. Choose." "Papa, you can't force me." "I can and I will. Adunni is fighting to save our family's reputation and freedom. You created this mess with your selfish choices. The least you can do is help fix it." After Emika reluctantly agreed, Chief Adebayo made his own calls, to judges he'd known for decades, to politicians who owed him favors, to law enforcement officials who understood the difference between actual criminals and innocent people caught in criminal enterprises. "The charges will be filed this morning," he told Adunni, "but we have 48 hours to present evidence that you were manipulated, not complicit. And if we can't prove that, then you go to trial and we fight it in court." At 9 a.m., Adunni walked into the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission headquarters in Abuja, flanked by the best legal team in Nigeria and surrounded by media coverage that had reached international outlets. The scandal that began with a cheating husband had become a story about financial crime, family betrayal, and the lengths people would go to protect those they loved. "Mrs. Okafor," Commissioner Adamu said as she was processed, "you're being charged with money laundering, conspiracy to commit financial crimes, and aiding criminal enterprise. Do you understand these charges?" "I understand the charges, Commissioner. I don't understand how helping someone I thought was in trouble makes me a criminal." "That's for the courts to decide." As she was led to an interview room, Adunni's phone buzzed with one final text message from Folklore. "I'm sorry, sister. I never meant for any of this to happen. But I can't let them destroy my life for mistakes I didn't know I was making." The text included an attachment, a recorded conversation between Folklore and the criminal organization, clearly showing her negotiating to provide false evidence against Adunni in exchange for her own protection. "Agent," Adunni called to her escort, "I need my lawyer to see this immediately." The recording was devastating. In it, Folklore explicitly agreed to fabricate evidence against her sister, claiming that Adunni had been the one coordinating with money launderers, and that her press conference was an attempt to negotiate with authorities. "She's trying to frame you," Gamisola said after listening to the recording. "This proves she's working with the criminals to make you the scapegoat. But why would she send me evidence of her own betrayal? Because she wants you to know that she's in control. She wants you to understand that fighting the charges means fighting her too." As they prepared for the interrogation, news broke on every television in the building. Folklore had held her own press conference, this time claiming that her sister had forced her into gambling as part of a sophisticated money laundering scheme. "Ladies and gentlemen," Folklore said to the cameras, tears streaming down her face, "I'm pregnant and terrified. My sister threatened to destroy my relationship with Emika unless I helped her move money through gambling accounts. When I tried to stop, she reminded me that she had evidence of my addiction and could use it to take my children away." The performance was masterful, a pregnant woman claiming to be the victim of her powerful sister's manipulation. Public opinion, which had been somewhat sympathetic to Adunni's plight, began to shift as people saw Folklore as the vulnerable party. Chief Adebayo watched the press conference with growing fury. "She's not just trying to frame you for the crimes. She's trying to make you look like the real villain in your own marriage's destruction. Papa, what if she wins? What if people believe her? Then we make sure the truth comes out in ways she can't manipulate. The old man made a phone call that lasted exactly 3 minutes. When he hung up, his face was grim but determined. "What did you just do?" "I called in the biggest favor I've ever asked for. In 1 hour, evidence is going to surface that shows exactly who Folklore has been working with, how long she's been involved in their operations, and what she's promised them in exchange for your destruction." "What kind of evidence?" "The kind that proves she's been planning this betrayal for months, not days. The kind that shows she didn't just steal your husband, she planned to steal your freedom too." As they waited in the EFCC building for the next phase of the investigation to unfold, Adani realized that her fight for justice had become something much larger. It wasn't just about a cheating spouse or a vindictive sister anymore. It was about whether truth could survive when everyone around you was committed to lies. Her phone rang one final time. It was Chitty. "Mama, we've been watching the news. All 4 of us want you to know that no matter what happens, no matter what anyone says, we believe you. We know who you are." For the first time in weeks, Adani smiled. Whatever happened next, her children knew the truth. And sometimes, that was enough to keep fighting. But as Agent Okafor appeared in the doorway with an urgent expression, she realized the fight was about to take another unexpected turn. "Mrs. Okafor, there's been a development. Your sister Folklore has disappeared, and the people she was working with are claiming she stole something from them, something worth a lot more than 50 million naira. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. What do you think Folklore stole? Will Adani finally get justice? Comment your predictions. The helicopter circled over Lagos Harbor as emergency services searched for any sign of Folklore's body. She'd been missing for 18 hours, and her abandoned car had been found at the 3rd Mainland Bridge with a suicide note claiming she couldn't live with the guilt of destroying her sister's life. But Adani wasn't buying it. "She's not dead," she told Chief Adebayo as they watched the search from his Banana Island mansion. "Folklore is many things, but suicidal isn't one of them. The note seemed genuine. She confessed to everything, the money laundering, the false accusations against you, even admitted that she'd been working with criminals for over a year. It's too convenient. She disappears just when the EFCC was about to arrest her, leaves behind a confession that clears me of all charges, and takes the heat off everyone else involved. That's not suicide, that's an escape plan." Chief Adebayo's phone rang. It was Commissioner Adamu from the EFCC. "Chief Okafor, we need to speak with your daughter-in-law immediately. We've discovered something about the missing funds that changes everything." An hour later, Adani sat in the same EFCC interrogation room where she'd expected to be charged with crimes she didn't commit. But this time, Commissioner Adamu wore the expression of a man who'd just solved a puzzle that had been bothering him for months. "Mrs. Okafor, your sister didn't just fake her death. She stole 12 million naira from the criminal organization she was working with. 12 million? Money they had given her to invest in high-stakes gambling operations. Instead of losing it as planned, she won big and decided to keep the winnings for herself." The scope of Folklore's betrayal was breathtaking. She hadn't just destroyed Adani's marriage and tried to frame her for crimes. She'd also stolen millions from dangerous criminals and faked her death to escape the consequences. "Commissioner, where does this leave me legally?" "Free to go. The confession she left behind, combined with evidence we've gathered independently, proves you were an unwitting victim in her schemes. All charges against you have been dropped." As they left the EFCC building, Adani's phone exploded with notifications. The news of her exoneration was spreading across Nigerian media, but so was speculation about where Folklore might be hiding. "Mama," Kimmy called as soon as they reached the car. "We saw the news. You're free." "Yes, baby. The charges have been dropped." "What about Aunt Folklore?" Adani looked out at Lagos traffic, thinking about her sister somewhere in the world with a new identity and 12 million naira in stolen money. Your aunt made her choices. Now she has to live with the consequences. But that evening, as Adunni finally returned to her Victoria Island penthouse for the first time in a week, she found something waiting for her that changed everything. Emeka sat in the living room where she'd first caught him with Folklore, but this time he was alone, and he looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in 10 days. Adunni, we need to talk. I thought we were past talking. Folklore is gone. The baby, she was never pregnant. The words hit her like a physical blow. What? She faked the pregnancy test. The whole thing was a lie designed to manipulate both of us into protecting her from the criminal charges she knew were coming. Adunni sank onto the sofa, processing this final betrayal. So everything, the affair, the pregnancy, the threats, it was all part of some elaborate scheme to steal money and escape consequences. I don't know. Maybe. I thought I loved her, but I'm not sure I ever knew who she really was. The admission would have meant something a week ago. Now it just sounded like another man trying to avoid responsibility for his choices. What do you want from me, Emeka? I want to know if there's any way to fix what I broke. Adunni looked around the penthouse that had been their home for 20 years, at the family photos that documented 4 decades of a marriage built on lies she'd never recognized. You can't fix 40 years of trust with an apology. You can't undo betrayal by claiming you were manipulated too. So this is it? 40 years and we just end? We ended the moment you chose her over me. Everything since then has just been paperwork. Before Emeka could respond, Chief Adebayo entered the penthouse using his own key. He took one look at his son and shook his head in disgust. Papa, Emeka began, I know I made mistakes. You destroyed the best woman this family ever had for the sake of a criminal who was using you. That's not a mistake. That's a choice that reveals who you really are. Can't we find a way to rebuild? As a family? Chief Adebayo pulled out an envelope and handed it to Adunni. This came by courier an hour ago. It's from Folklore. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message written in Folklore's handwriting. Sister, by the time you read this, I'll be somewhere you'll never find me. I'm sorry for the pain I caused, but I'm not sorry for surviving. The money I took will give me the life I always deserved. Thank you for teaching me that family loyalty is just another word for weakness. F. The cruelty of the final insult was breathtaking. Even in escape, Folklore couldn't resist one last psychological wound. She's right about one thing, Adunni said quietly. Family loyalty was my weakness. I spent years protecting people who were planning to destroy me. Chief Adebayo sat beside his daughter-in-law. But that loyalty also saved you. Your children stood by you, I stood by you, and even some of your husband's employees supported you publicly. Real family loyalty isn't a weakness, it's a strength that exposes who deserves it. Emeka stood up, realizing he was no longer welcome in the conversation. Adunni, what happens now? She looked at the man she'd been married to for 40 years, the father of her children, the person she'd once thought was her soulmate. Now you live with your choices, and I live with mine. And what did you choose? I chose to fight for what I built, to protect what I earned, and to stop sacrificing my dignity for people who never appreciated it. As Emeka left the penthouse for the last time, Chief Adebayo turned to Adunni with something that looked almost like pride. What are you going to do now? I'm going to rebuild. The construction company, my reputation, my life, all of it. But this time, I'm building it for people who deserve my loyalty. And if someone comes to you in the future, desperate for help, claiming they need your protection. Adunni smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. I'll remember that the people who truly deserve help don't try to destroy you when you give it to them. 6 months later, Adunni stood in the boardroom of Okafor Construction, now renamed Adunni Holdings, addressing her new board of directors. The company was more profitable than ever, her children were thriving in their expanded roles, and Chief Adebayo had officially transferred ownership of his empire to her and the grandchildren. Emeka worked for a smaller construction firm in Abuja, living modestly on his reduced inheritance and the income from a job his reputation barely qualified him for. He requested visitation rights with his grandchildren, but they were old enough to choose their own relationships. Folake had never been found, though Interpol had several leads on a Nigerian woman living under a false identity in Dubai. The 12 million naira she'd stolen had apparently been invested wisely. Her social media accounts, traced by investigators, showed a lifestyle of luxury that her former victims could only dream of achieving. But as Adunni looked out at Lagos from her office windows, she realized that revenge and justice weren't the same thing. Folake might have escaped legal consequences, and Emeka might have avoided the complete destruction of his life, but both had lost something irreplaceable: the trust and love of people who would have died to protect them. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sister, I see you're doing well. Maybe someday we can laugh about all of this over drinks in Dubai. F." Adunni deleted the message without responding. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding, no matter how much history they'd once carried. Instead, she called her mother in Ibadan. "Mama, I was thinking we should plan a family gathering for Christmas. Just the people who never forgot what family actually means." As the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of gold and orange, Adunni realized that sometimes the greatest victory wasn't defeating your enemies. It was discovering that you were stronger than you'd ever imagined, even when everyone you trusted tried to prove otherwise. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed her had instead revealed her true power, and for the first time in 40 years, she was building a life designed entirely around her own choices. And that, she thought as she prepared to go home to a house filled with people who actually loved her, was worth more than any revenge could ever provide. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What did you think of Folake's ultimate betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what stories you'd like to hear next from African Tales by Ben.